Listen would say, trash man didn't get my trash today. Oh, why? Because they want more pay. Buses on strike, wanna raise the fare. So they can help pollute the air. But Jesus makes the world go round, up and down the carousel. Even though we look around and there doesn't seem to be hope, Jesus makes the world go round. Looking around, you see the protest. The police are acting out of their mind. Poverty is all around. The food lines are so long they can't even be counted. But Jesus sees it all right now. He has an answer for it all. Keep your head up to the sky. It will not take too long. Jesus makes the world go round. COVID-19 has a place. It has a time, it'll go away. Wearing masks and distancing, we must continue in the meantime. But don't be thrown off by what you are seeing going all around. Someone sits up high and low, he can't see it all. Jesus makes the world go round. Jesus makes the world go round and around and around. Jesus makes the world go round. Only He make the world go round. Now let's play with this song a little bit. Let's make it there with a little bit of skip. Jesus is in charge, don't you know He is in charge? He is in charge, He is in charge. Don't you know there's only one, there's only one. His name is Jesus. He's known as the Rose of Sharon, the lily of the valley, the bright morning star. Can bear the rock that won't move. He is the one that can be counted on. Don't get discouraged. Keep on moving, keep on fighting, keep on running, keep on serving, keep on helping, keep on loving. Jesus, the world go round. He made it go round. He made it go round. Anytime He wants to change, He can change anything when He gets ready. Don't you know He changes too? Jesus, He made it go round. Only Jesus can make it go round. Everybody talking about everything but Jesus. Jesus, the name above all name where no one else can be saved but Jesus. He's the one who rules and super rules. He's Alpha and Omega, talking about Jesus. He's Alpha and Omega, the beginning He's the Prince of Peace. He's the bright and morning star. He's higher, higher above all things. Everything is subject to him. Everything. 45 is subject to him. Don't get thrown off by what he said. He's subject to him. He's subject to him. At the name of Jesus, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess it because of Jesus. Talking about Jesus. Jesus, make the world go round. Don't you ever forget, don't you ever forget, keep it always in the forefront of your thinking. Talking about Jesus. Talking about Jesus. Talking about Jesus. Call on his name in the early morning, in the middle of the day, and late at night. Jesus. Jesus. He'll never disappoint. He'll never let you down. You can count on him. Don't matter where you are. Jesus. Talking about Jesus. That's enough. I better stop because it's time to preach. Let them play and end this song on Jesus. But keep on playing. You'll never hear. I still don't think I'm on yet, but that's okay. We'll figure it out. Now, so you'll never hear that song like that again. So therefore, as soon as you think about stylistic, you won't be able to think about them like that anymore. But that's okay. Let me just grab this. I'm okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Whatever. It's all good. So there, just kind of put some filler music in, and we keep on rolling as we are right now until we get it all figured out. Okay, now here we go. Now here we go. So, now, all right, now we good.
We're not to be defeated.
Right. We won't take a long time, but there is something that needs to come out today. The National Security Advisor, the new one that our wonderful president has appointed, had made a statement while being interviewed even this morning that he rejected the notion that there's institutional racism in police departments. He came and he pushed back on that reality that pretty much everybody knows who's going to be honest. And what that clearly said was, he doesn't know what it's like living while brown.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because if he lived a short length of time being brown, then he would understand that you're in trouble if you're jogging.
Yes.
That you're in trouble if you're a bird watcher.
Yes.
That you're in trouble if you're returning products that you purchased.
Yes.
And they think that you've stolen. You're in trouble sometime when you're going into your house because they don't believe that you live there. You're in trouble when you're going looking for things in a store while somebody's walking around wondering if you're going to walk out with it. That you're in trouble while driving a certain type of vehicle because the thought is you have to have an underworld life to be able to drive it. Just then, if the children wear certain types of clothes or shoes, then the thought is that it came through drug money, just living while brown. Living while brown. You could be driving the speed limit going down the highway and several cars are driving by you and then they'll stop you. They will tend to try to say that you're driving under the influence and all you were doing was being influenced by praise music. Living while brown. Just living while brown. It's pretty clear that this person isn't there. So today we want to talk to you about injustice. This is our fight. Injustice, this is our fight. Jesus in Matthew chapter 26 said, watch and pray.
Yes, sir.
Now he encouraged us to pray, but he would not have told us to watch until he says you need to be aware of what's going on around you. Now he said pray, but he said watch.
Yes, sir.
So in other words, he said watch so you don't mess up.
Yeah.
But pray. Trust me, but I need for you to watch the things that are around you. So this passage, the tendency, this first one in 2 Chronicles 7:14, that the tendency is that people who say they know the Lord will run here and then they want to stop. They want to stop right there. But listen at this passage. But then as we go, I'm going to challenge us a little bit about what we need to do in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14.
My people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways. Then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and I will heal their land.
Now the thing he said, if they turn from their wicked ways, which has something to do with watching. It has something to do with watching. If they turn from their wicked ways, in other words, he said, I'm not going to heal the land until we turn from so the next passage is Psalm 82, verse 3.
Defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed.
You notice what he's saying? That this is the people oppose the causes of the oppressed. Do you know anybody who is oppressed?
Yes.
So oppressed people are under pressure all of the time. It's never stopped. It's a lifestyle. Oppression. If you think about press, press, pressure, press, which means on top of, hey guys, don't. Gotta lock us in, because what we'll do is, I want you to understand, it's like a static. It breaks a process. And we've got to be here in one place, one focus, or it will allow the enemy to have room out there with everything else that's going forward. That's the reason why we got to lock it in. Yes, those of us who are gathered, we got to lock it in and be of one mind in order for the Lord to be able to do what he's going to do, because the enemy is looking for anything that's so subtle It is so subtle, and that's the reason why. So then the next one is in Isaiah chapter 1, verse 17, and then we'll be going to Proverbs 31, verse 9. But listen to what God is talking about this issue.
Learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the case of the widow.
You notice what he's saying? Look for justice. In other words, tell us get involved. That's why the praying part by itself isn't enough. Because God historically have allowed us to participate in the miracle process, and he does the divine, but he tells us we've got to do the human. If somebody needs some food, God's not raining down manna from heaven anymore. Somebody needs to either take them the food or show them where the food is. Are you all following what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You can't say be well, God's going to provide for you, and you got a bag full of groceries in your arm. So that's the deal. So Proverbs 31, verse 9. Injustice, this is our fight.
Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy.
Speak up. Some of us afraid if we're working to lose our job if we say something. That's what happens with law enforcement when they see stuff and don't say anything. And some of them are people of faith, but they won't open their mouth.
That's right.
They won't open their mouth. So notice when he said, look out for folks. Somebody's got to advocate.
Yes, sir.
Now notice, it's speaking to God's people.
Yes.
He doesn't expect those who don't know him to read this.
That's right.
For his people. So Proverbs 28, verse 5 is the next one.
Evildoers do not understand what is right, but those who seek the Lord understand it fully.
You got that? There's this great dichotomy. Those who don't know him, they don't even know what's right, nor they're interested. They aren't interested. So when you hear people talking about things that don't line up in terms of being consistent with God, it's letting you know they can't know. And oftentimes we end up saying, I don't see how people could do that. Yes, you can. Because if they don't know him, that's all they have. That's all they have. They don't even know or conceive about trying to do what is right. So sometimes you can take some pressure off of yourself and face the reality that they don't know and cannot know. They can't know. But over here, the silent majority sitting on the sideline, watching it and talking about it and saying, let us pray. By all means, pray.
That's right.
By all means, pray. By all means, pray. But get up after that.
That's right.
That's right.
Get up. That's God speaking. Because he says, speak up. So if he tells you to speak up, he's not talking about to him because he can hear us in a whisper. He hears our thoughts. So he said clearly he's not talking about that. So then the next one is Proverbs 29, verse 7. And then we'll be in Proverbs 21.
The righteous care about justice for the poor, but the wicked have no such concern.
You got that? Did you hear what that said?
Yes.
The righteous, those who know him, they want to see it right. And the ones who don't, you know what it said? The wicked, that's not even on their agenda at all. So there's a clear distinction. Well-meaning people could still not care.
Yes.
They mean well. And you may say they don't bother anybody. They go about doing what they're doing. But they're not taking the next step. So Proverbs 21, verse 15.
When justice is done, it brings joy to the righteous, but terror to the evildoers.
You know, when these things come out and they start to be addressed, those who have been doing wrong, just like this officer, brother man, who just did this to Brother Floyd, he decided he would change his identity because he was about to hit the road.
Oh, I didn't know that.
To go to Florida. The word was he changed his appearance to look like a beach boy because he was about to get out of Minnesota. When they fired him, he was going to go and disappear. And if you go and look at the mug shot that they have of him and look at him out on the street, take a look at that picture in the uniform and take a look at the mug shot, they look like two different people.
Yeah, it was different.
Wow.
Because he had flipped it and was going to go shift and hide and run away. Had it been 2 days later, he would have been gone. And then it showed that his wife filed for divorce as soon as they arrested him, which told you there was already other stuff going on. Are y'all following it?
That's right.
It was already going on. And she, oh, here's my house now. Oh, he can't threaten me now. They got it. Click.
That's right.
Immediately.
That's
right.
See, I've been waiting on this. Bless the Lord, oh my soul. All that is within me.
Gotta go. Wow.
Then Jesus, even in the midst of that, and we're almost there, Luke chapter 4, verse 18 and 19.
Thank you for the word, Lord.
The Spirit of the Lord is on me, because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor.
Okay, listen clearly to what he's saying. He said, to tell the poor, there's hope. Keep going.
He has sent me to proclaim freedom for the prisoners.
Now, the prisoners, that doesn't mean just the prisoners who are behind bars. It does mean them, but it's not just them, because we're oppressed people are in prison. Keep going.
And recovery of the sight for the blind.
And so no, let's talk about natural healing or the physical hearing, and for those who don't have a vision, the two visions, the vision, natural sight, and can't see past where they are. Because the good news gives you a different perspective.
Yes, sir.
When all of a sudden you're into a relationship with Jesus Christ, how you looked at the world is no longer the same. Although the circumstance could have been different, but now you have a vision of how it could be quite different.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
To proclaim the year of the Lord's favor.
We don't even have to touch that one. Go on.
You want to go to 20?
Go to 20.
Okay. Then he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of everyone in the synagogues were fastened on him. He began by saying to them, today the scripture is fulfilled in your hearing.
And notice he said, when I tell you this, this is the way it's going to be. And so then, if we are a part of him, then he comes back again in his next passage in Matthew 5. He says, you heard me say, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me, and he's anointed, and he said, you heard what I told you about me. Now I need to tell you about you. Now listen to Matthew 5, verses 13 through 16.
You are the salt of the earth. But if the salt loses its saltiness, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot.
Now notice that this saltiness, really, it's centered around this justice. Because the verses that precede talk about blessed are those, blessed are the peacemaker, and it goes on to get into this. And notice he said, this saltiness is to impact everything that it's around. Wherever it finds itself, salt just doesn't sit there. It affects everything. You could take a teaspoon of salt into 32 ounces of sugar, and that salt will dominate the sugar.
Yes, it will.
Yes, it will.
A teaspoon. So it says how powerful God is. He's giving us this imagery to say, hey, you carry something that can impact, although you may think in the light of everything else that it does nothing, and it's not true. And it really is not true. He said, where can you be found? Okay, keep going.
You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light up a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house.
Now notice, so he told us to pray. All right, we got that part. So now he says, but I also want you to be.
Yes. Yeah.
I want you to pray, but I want you to be. Now he said, well, what does that look like? If you've been in his presence, then now when you're commissioned, the next thing is it has an impact, because you don't go into God's presence for him to stay just sit here. Because when he took Peter, James, and John up on the Mount of Transfiguration, and they said it's good to be, he said, okay, great, now let's go back down there. We come into his presence to take the next step. In the book of Acts, they talk about we gather to scatter. So in other words, we come to his presence, then it's time to go out and act. Time to go act out what he has said. So when people say, I want to get a word from the Lord, this is the word from the Lord.
Amen.
This is the word for now. When he said, I want to get a word from God, it's like, well, okay, how much of it do you want? How much of it do you need to say, no longer just let us pray? Be very clear. By all means, pray. Now it's time, and then after that, it's time to get up and do something.
Yes, sir.
All right, keep going.
Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others.
Do that again. It says now what and what now?
In the same way.
In the same. Okay. Notice that. In the same way. In other words, I just gave you an imagery, and this is what you need to do. He says, in the same way that this light impacts the environment. What he's saying is, in the same way, your life is supposed to impact the environment, because you are walking salt.
Right.
You're walking salt. Everywhere you're going, it's the trail of salt. And has there been an effect?
Amen.
Has there been, is it evident that salt has shown up? Is it evident? Or has it lost its savor and is good for nothing?
Yes, sir.
Except to be trampled down on?
Amen.
So in other words, it says, stop calling my name if you're not going to be what I said. Shut up.
Wow.
Don't use my name. Use your name.
Yep.
Okay, keep going.
In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven.
So the ultimate goal is that he gets the glory.
Amen.
Then, and we're almost there. Last passage, Micah chapter 6, verse 8.
He has shown you, O mortal, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you?
Notice they said, he's summing it all up. He's summing it all up and saying, what does God require? And he's about to tell you. You say, Lord, I want your will. I want to do what you say. I want to make sure that I'm locked in. And I already know it. I know some of you are saying, God, show me what you want me to do, what you want me to be. And he said, I'm about to tell you. All right, now listen to this.
And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, and to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God.
Notice, justice is a necessary part of pleasing God.
Justice.
Living out a life of justice. You can't separate it and say, I love him. I honor him. And it says to walk humbly with him, because you're letting your light so shine, being the salt said, you are impacting injustice. And then we can go even further. We look at the historic figure, Dr. Martin Luther King, let justice roll down. That's for another day. Let justice roll down like a mighty stream. Now you say, so injustice, it is our fight. Now, and you can't wimp out of this and use the name. Because if you use the name and wimp out, you're counterfeit. Now you say, well, okay, well, what can I do? I don't know what to do. I don't want to go out there because I don't want to be burning stuff down. I don't want to tear stuff up. I don't want to do all that. Hold on. We got some very practical things. One of the first things you can do is to encourage more people who are brown to become career people in law enforcement. You change it by outnumbering.
That's right.
Wow.
If you get more in,
I agree.
listen. What if we had some of our creative young men
Yeah.
who are out there
Uh-huh.
getting things done
Uh-huh.
in creative ways?
Uh-huh.
If they were leading a squad in law enforcement, knowing the streets, knowing the layout, having been there, knowing how to do it, and suddenly they were a sergeant.
Come on.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
All of a sudden, you talk about knowing how to handle a neighborhood.
That's right. Yes.
Because you got Pookie himself.
Yeah.
All of them. Sometimes they don't even know their whole name. They just know what they've been called. But those are the ones you need.
Yes,
Fighting
sir.
Junebug.
Yes, sir.
There's some more in law enforcement.
Yes,
That's
sir.
right.
Just like a little boy got lost in a store and somebody found him. They say, we got Junior up here. Anybody missing Junior? And about 50 mothers showed up because they all called Junior. And he never knew his real name. So they all showed.
Oh, Lord.
What's your name, Junior? All right, okay, let's kind of work through this.
Oh, Lord, help us.
The next thing everybody needs to do is to vote.
Yes.
Register and vote.
Yes.
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 And we also need to have some more brown people to run for office.
Yeah.
If we register to vote and run some brown people for office, you can change some of the legislation.
Uh-huh.
Justice, that's justice. That's justice. Then support social justice agency. Put some money there.
Amen.
Put some money there. Places like the Urban League, the NAACP, the ACLU, the United Way. We can just kind of go on. And you follow that? These are the ones that are running it behind it. They're advocating for oppressed people.
Yes. Yes.
Now here's something else. Be intimidated. You need to participate in some peaceful protests.
Amen.
You need to get out there. You say, I don't want no parts of that. Okay, wimp. Okay, you follow what we're saying? Let your light so shine. Get out there. You can leave anytime you want to, but show up.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Just leave it.
Show up.
Leave before it get dark.
Show and then listen and then tell on the ones who are doing the wrong thing.
Yes, sir.
Letting your light
Shine.
so shine. If you take that 17-year-old out of the picture, then it would be no arrest.
That's right.
The courage of keeping that camera on, 17 years old, of keeping that camera on in spite of what they were saying. She kept it on. Courage. She was letting her light so shine. She was letting her light so shine. And then the other thing, you got to speak up. When you see stuff not right, you got to say something. It don't matter what your relationship is with somebody. You have to say something. Don't fall on this thing about it's none of my business. It is.
Yeah.
It's our fight.
That's right.
It is our fight. Now, I know I have a history of turning people in. I turn people in. I turn in, let me give you just a few names. And then be ready for the last song. Brother One, I was on baseball scholarship. And the coach was taking funds that were supposed to be for players. They were paying for equipment like gloves, and he was charging the guys for gloves. And the funds that paid for the gloves supposed to have been given to them. Out of the budget, gloves for the baseball player. And I found out. And I went and turned him in, the coach. And he said, son, you don't know what you're doing. Yes, I do. Turn him in. Turned him in. Didn't get put off the team. Turned him in. And he became one of my best friends after he got turned in. When he realized it's like, no, bro, that's not how it goes. Then I go a step further. I had attended a community college, and early on, the president was mishandling student government funds, and I was the president of the class. So I went to the state superintendent of education and said the president of this college is misusing funds. And what they did is they blocked me from being able to set foot on the campus, so I couldn't get transcripts. But I turned them in. Ended up having to go to court to get the right to get the transcript. And I went to this president afterwards and said, I forgive you for everything that you have done to try to cause me harm. And he broke down in tears. So by the time I left, I had every conceivable scholarship and money and everything they could think of that they did. Have you ever seen it where the president of a college comes out openly and supports you to be the president of the student government? After he got turned in, and I told him I forgive him, he started rallying for me to be the president of the student government. Now, how about that?
All right, Joseph.
Are you following what we're saying? So speaking out, and I've spoken out against some pastors when they haven't been right. I've confronted some about not being right. I have challenged other people in situations that were not good. So you're not looking or listening to somebody who isn't practicing this. Oh, I've been out there. I've walked the picket lines. I've walked the streets. I've done it. And I'm going to get out here now. I know who's one of the point people, and I'm going out there and walk around. But what I will not do, I will not have a clergy collar on, and I won't be Reverend so-and-so. If I'm going to put me a hat on my head and walk the street right along with him, I'm going to be brother man. I'm going to walk the street and be brother man.
Brother undercover. Brother man.
It's going to be brother man. I'm out here down for the call.
Yeah.
Are y'all hearing what I'm saying? I'm going to be down for the call, and I'm challenging you. Are you down for the call, or are you a wimp?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
If you're going to be a wimp, stay wimpy. But don't use the name.
Amen.
Just don't use the name. Because you are disqualified to use the name if you don't let your light so shine. We'll just come right back. Why don't you all come on up and do this closing song.
We got our marching orders as friends of God. We're his friend. He's called us friend. Then we should fight for justice. Who am I that you are mindful of me?
that, and now we have a trio for Asia joining us, so give her a holler out there. You ought to give her a holler out there. Now, the challenge with all of this is that God's going to hold us. Michael had used the term discipline. We're going to take you high level. He's going to hold you accountable for what you heard. And just those who have heard today, there should be more saltiness around in your sphere of influence because God's expecting. Now, here's the thing. Now, if you don't, watch the needs in your life change. Wow. Because you would have said no to him. And whenever you say no, Lord, there's a cost. So if you don't find some way to put into practice, then praying to him other than repentance won't do you any good because he'll be saying, I can't hear you. I can't hear you. Our time is up.
Thank you for yours.